Alright, hello everyone. My name is Falak, and today I'm going to talk about a very important topic. So, those who are preparing for IELTS or those who want to prepare for IELTS or any other language test, they might be aware about that in terms of writing and speaking, there is one criteria that is grammatical range and accuracy. So when we say grammatical range, it is quite easy to understand that you need to make the correct tenses, you need to make correct forms of verbs, there has to be subject verb agreement. But what exactly grammatical range means? So basically, grammatical range is nothing but you need to showcase the different elements of grammar and in order to showcase how well you are equipped with grammatical concepts. So for that purpose, we are here to talk about different sentence structures. And today we are going to talk about a very important topic, which is complex sentences. So complex sentences, usually people get scared of these. The reason being they are complex. But let me tell you, when we start understanding how to frame such sentences, they're actually fun to make. So without any further delay, let's start. So as you people can see on the screen, we are going to talk about complex sentences. So your writing piece or whenever you speak in a speaking exam, it's important to showcase the different sentence structures in order to add grammatical range in that. And the very one core component here is complex sentences. While teaching you how to frame such sentences, I'll be using certain terms. And for that purpose, it's very important to understand that what these terms are. So for that matter, let's talk about clauses. Now you might feel I'm taking you back to standard fifth, but that is what you need right now, right? So clauses, what clauses are? Clauses are nothing but these are the chunk of language that have one subject and one verb at least, right? So clauses are nothing but these are the chunks of language that have one subject and one verb at least. For example, she plays, they own a house. So if you just pay attention to these two sentences, she is a subject, plays is a verb. So it is actually meeting the criteria of clause, which is saying it should have one subject and one verb at least. The second sentence, they own a house. So they is again one subject and one verb is own, right? So this is clause. I think it's pretty much easy to understand. But when it comes to what kind of clauses we have, so it's time to further segregate them into two parts, that is independent clauses, right? And the other one is dependent clauses. So what these are? When I talk about independent clauses, they are nothing but they can stand alone, means they do not require further explanation. Right? They are complete in themselves. So, like I said, they can stand alone and they don't require further explanation. What does it mean? That they are not looking for further justification, further clarification, further explanation for that matter, because they actually makes a sense. They actually make a sense. For example, she eats twice a day, right? So it is making perfect sense. She eats twice a day. So it is not looking for any explanation further. But and let me take one more example. For example, we play, we play every day, right? So again, one subject, one verb is there, and they are complete in themselves. Now let's talk about dependent ones. What are dependent clauses? So if I'll just negate what I taught in independent clauses, so dependent ones, they can't stand alone, right? They can't stand alone. They require further explanation, right? They require further explanation. For example, let me talk about an example here that will help you to understand even better. Although she eats twice a day, right? So if you just pay attention to this particular sentence and a particular clause, I would say that would be a better one. So although she eats twice a day. So if you just compare the independent clause, so it is saying she eats twice a day. It was complete, right? I just talked about one fact about a girl that she eats twice a day. But now dependent is saying although she eats twice a day. What? What next? So if you can see, if you can just understand that it is incomplete in itself, it is looking for further explanation, right? So for example, when we play every day, what happens? When we play every day, what happens? Right? So for that purpose, it is again looking for some explanation here. Otherwise, it is incomplete. So there are two sentences in front of you, two on the independent side, two on dependent side, and you can compare that independent ones are complete, dependent ones are looking for further explanation. And you might wonder that why dependent ones are looking for further explanation. So can I say because of the presence of these words? Yes, you judged it right. So because of the presence of these words like although, when, it is an independent clause is becoming a dependent one, right? So now you must be thinking that what these words are actually. We hardly have used, or some of you have used while you write or when you speak, right? So let me talk about that these words we call as subordinate conjunctions, right? So subordinate conjunctions. Trust me, by this time you might feel that okay, there is bombardment of grammatical terms and ideas and so on. But once you understand the very basic, it will be really easier for you to frame such sentences. So hold on, right? So any which way, subordinate conjunctions. What these are? Like I have showed you certain examples, like although, right? When was there? Then actually the list is huge. For example, once, before, after, because, if, while, whereas, as soon as, and so on. Trust me, the list is huge. Now, although, when, once, before, after, because, if, while. So whenever these subordinate conjunctions come into play in front of an independent clause, they make that independent clause to dependent one, right? And this is the role of subordinate conjunctions here. Now, by this time, you might understand you have all the equipments that you require to make complex sentences. You understand what clauses are, you understand what independent clauses are, you understand what are dependent clauses and subordinate conjunctions. Now, let's put them together and frame some beautiful complex structures, right? All right. So coming back to the very first point, that is complex sentences. So what complex sentences are, right? These are nothing but It's a combination of independent and dependent clauses, right? Like I said, by this time you are aware about what are independent and what are dependent clauses. Now the idea is just to combine them in order to make what we are looking for, that is complex structures. All right. Now let me put some examples here, right? So the example was, although she plays every day. Or let me be more specific with the example that we took. Although she eats twice a day, she didn't have anything have anything in the entire day. She didn't have anything today, right? Though you might feel that a lot of verbosity in this there in this sentence with day and today. Let's make more convincing sentences here. For example, when the dog barks, I get scared, right? Because the soup was too cold, I warmed it in the microwave. Even though it was raining, I managed to reach home on time. All right, I think these examples are good enough. So now let's speculate these examples. The first one, although she eats twice a day, she didn't have anything today, right? So although is a subordinate conjunction, and although she eats twice a day is a dependent clause. And as you know, that dependent clause is looking for some further explanation, or to be precise, is looking for some other dependent clause, is looking for some other independent clause, which is she didn't have anything today. So although she eats twice a day, she didn't have anything today. Second one, when the dog barks, I get scared. So when the dog barks, what happened? Looking for some independent clause. So I get scared. I get scared is an independent clause, and when I am attaching it with the dependent clause, it is actually making a complete sentence, and a sentence with the proper sense as well. So when the dog barks, I get scared. Because the soup was too cold, I warmed it in the microwave. Right? So it is starting with again a subordinate conjunction because the soup was too cold. And if you just pay attention, this alone dependent clause again is not making any sense because the soup was too cold. So what you did? What happened then? Right? So these questions arise. So these questions need to be answered with the help of an independent clause, that I warmed it in the microwave. Right? Even though it was raining, even though again a subordinate conjunction, I managed to reach home on time, right? So these all are the examples of complex sentences, right? So here one very important concept is that comes into play is punctuation. Because these complex sentences are a bit lengthier in nature, so it is very important to put the desired commas, semicolons, to be precise, punctuation in order to make them more clear. So remember, whenever you make complex sentences, after the dependent clause, once the dependent clause gets finished, you'll put a comma. You can observe this in my examples as well. Although she eats twice a day, a comma. When the dog barks, a comma. Because the soup was too cold, comma. Even though it was raining, comma. Right? So there is need to punctuate your sentences after the completion of dependent clauses. Right? So this was all about complex structures. Stay tuned for more sentence structures in the coming sessions. Thank you.